Hello, Rajiv Bhatia. Welcome to the channel Kahanis Golden Bytes. Thank you for taking out your time to be on the channel, Rajiv.
Thank you, Joby, and it's been a pleasure to sort of meet you after so many years. And of course, I remember it was about what 2001 or so, and way before that in college as well.
Yes. Lovely, Rajiv. Once again, a warm welcome. So, Rajiv, for the benefit of our viewers, could you just, may I request you to please give a little background about yourself, just a brief, Rajiv?
Okay, so my full name is Rajiv Bhatia. I'm, in terms of education, I'm an MBA from National University of Singapore. And have close to about 32 years of experience, various companies, Accenture, Deutsche Bank, EXL, WNS, and also as a CEO of a pure play insurance company, DLF America. So varied experience and lots of learnings along the way.
Lovely. Lovely, Rajiv. Absolutely brilliant. So, Rajiv, I'll take it one at a time, Rajiv. So, Rajiv, you mentioned you went to study in Singapore, and what took you there, Rajiv? When was this, and could you share a little bit about that, Rajiv?
Yes. So it was actually a mid-career. It was like a mid-career decision, a mid-career break that I took from working. Just after college, I got into banking, Punjab National Bank, and in fact, I wrote through all the BSRB recruitment exams for probationary officers. Got through all of them. Got Delhi as a base. Then worked through in Deutsche Bank. And then, the entrepreneur bug sort of caught up with me, and I started my own travel company. So 6-7 years of banking, 6-7 years of travel company, and then the inevitable happened in terms of, typical bane of small businesses, cash is king. So, and travel is a business where you actually, once you've given the tickets or you've done the services or so, then you chase for payment and all. And I realized that I had to kind of, cut down my losses, so to speak. And I thought the best way was to probably get back to industry, but pick up a formal degree on the way. So, and that's where NUS kind of happened. I thought Singapore was the closest to India in terms of culture, the top 20 university in the world. So that's where NUS happened.
Wow. So, Rajiv, you've taken, a decision which is not the norm, which means, once you're working, you don't throw it all up. You tend to do an executive education or, something like that. But here is what you just packed up and you went to Singapore, for your MBA. So Rajiv, now you could have stayed back in Singapore. Okay, Singapore, amongst the best in the world, financial hub of the world. I mean, apart from so many other benefits, and you were in the world of finance. So, what made you want to come back? Leave Singapore behind. You've taken off. So, Rajiv.
Yes, so I think multiple reasons. I think the first reason was, which I would say, I wanted to give it back. Throughout my formative years in terms of education, whether it was the schooling or SRCC, we were sort of blessed with the best of education, and so was it Singapore. But it didn't make sense to me somehow to that when the time was there to kind of give it back, you choose to give it back to a place which is not your own country or so. So that was the prime objective, so to speak. What also sort of aided the entire thing was Singapore was just coming out of the the economic recession, 1999, 2001. It was still not, and India was really booming at that point in time. ITES, EXL, most of these companies were beginning to sort of really take wings and all. So there was opportunity here. What it also meant was that it allowed me to kind of combine my previous 15 years of experience and manage people, process, technology. One of the things that I found while studying at 2 years in Singapore was that while you're fully wired up, while you are very connected, you're probably sitting in the market. No offense meant to anybody, but the human element is little bit kind of missing there, which I found. And when I came back, and that's exactly what happened. People welcomed me, old colleagues like you welcomed me, and there are people willing to give you another chance. So um, and that's where my previous 14 years of experience also kind of came in handy, managing people, processes. And within 6-7 weeks, I was actually on a plane to migrate some processes from Chicago. So all sort of fitted in that way.
Wow, wow. So Rajiv, you've had a fantastic career. You've been with the best companies in the world. You've, traveled extensively. Uh, you're right now the president and, country head for Analytix Solutions. So you're on the thick of this. I mean, let me just ask you a question. Would you, as you look back, right decision, or, would it have been better if you had stayed back in Singapore and the rest of the world, so to speak?
So I think I would have made definitely more money. I would have definitely had a much more sort of what do you call as a cleaner life, if environmentally you can talk about it. But I won't trade it for anything that I'm currently sort of doing. I actually love working in India. I love working on the fact that we've got probably the best talent in the world, and it's just that we need people to mentor. We need people to give the right guidance. When I started my second corporate innings, I started with a little bit of a handicap, as they call it in golf. But with leaders along the way, they sort of held my hand, told me how to look at things from a different perspective. I'm not so sure. I would have, as I said, no offense meant to Singapore. It's a fantastic, or any country, Western country, so to speak. I personally feel that the personal connect is slightly less accentuated there. I find people here, taking out time and giving you their words of wisdom, and that kind of helps definitely. So I would presume that if I look back now, I've managed small teams, I've scaled up teams. I started a small process of 100 people in Accenture. I grew up to about 1,000 or so, which is 10 times, and spread over almost like 17 locations. So what that means is uh, I could I could I could do things and I could make mistakes, which I'm not sure that that kind of a leeway is allowed. Probably in the Western world. So that way, I think it's a decision well spent. I would probably 200% times make the same decision all over again.
Fantastic, fantastic, Rajiv. And Rajiv, if I were to, take you back in times of, when you were studying in Singapore, do you think that those, that inning, that those studies, the education there, the environment, that was a, positive contributor to you, your growth and your,
Yes. In I would definitely say in 2 or 3 ways. One, it made me realize the importance of being around with family. I mean, I went all alone, and I was actually stepping into a class 16 years after I had passed out, and I was rubbing shoulders with people with 750 GMAT and things like that. And then the competitive spirit in me, the competitive Indian in me sort of came, and I said, "Come on, give me a semester, give me one session." And that session was not so much to sort out the studies part. It was more to sort out my living part, in terms of how do I manage my food and things like that. Because I had never, when you're in India, your mom cooks for you or your wife cooks for you, and they do all the things. And that was that only period which I wanted to. So in hindsight, I think that experience, in terms of, doing everything for yourself, managing your quizzes and managing your classes and managing your food and everything. I think that contributed a lot. Secondly, you meet people from different nationalities, and you also realize that, you are in a market, so you have to be at the top end of your game. In hindsight, if I had been in India, not taking anything away from the system out here as well, maybe I would have not acquired that cutting edge thought process. The ability to kind of react quickly enough. So that, of course, that MBA per se also helped me. So I think it was the entire ecosystem of managing yourself, brilliant education, that kind of really contributed in terms of shaping me. I take a lot of decisions thinking that I'm in that environment and what would I do, and kind of combine the local sensibilities also. So I think it definitely helped me in a big way.
So Rajiv, you've had this international exposure as well as working, a lot of Indian companies. Uh, you've won a lot of accolades. Uh, And has that in any way, helped you or, contributed the environment? You keep, you mentioned a few times sensibilities, the Indian environment. Has that benefited you in any way, the foreign education as well as working experience in India as well as, internationally, Rajiv?
Yes. So I would like to believe, over the years I've kind of picked up a few awards, a few recognitions, a few achievements, and I think they've been possible mainly because of a couple of reasons. One is that because of my foreign education, or the kind of upbringing I had, especially in those 2 years in Singapore, that made me a lot more client centric, a lot more closer to the customer in terms of what is it that they want and things like that. So I could think from that perspective as to what is the end client, what is the customer wanting to have, and really respecting that. So that was one. And second is how to sort of marry it with the local sensibilities. You know what the client wants, but you also are conscious of what your employee wants, so you kind of marry the two. And I would tend to imagine and think that if I had been only one-sided, which means either remained in Singapore, maybe I wouldn't have got that employee-centric element. Or if I had remained only in India and got all my education in India, I would have probably not been that client-centric, edges to it. So I think combining the two, and just on that point, one of the philosophies of my current company, Analytix, is that only I'm scouting for a lot of leadership. I'm hiring a lot of senior people, and one of my criteria is there, that someone who's either had some exposure abroad, but chose to come back, because then they know exactly as to what is it that, what does it mean when the client says, I'm not getting what my values worth is. So they have that market exposure, and at the same time they're getting everything done from the local team out here. So they can kind of ensure that interests on both sides are kind of met or so. I'm looking for a lot of my senior folks to have that kind of a similar experience, and maybe that is helping us probably win some of the recognitions and award. We just won the best brand award in Gujarat. We won the best employer award in the World HRD Congress, so best employer in India. So which means that we are kind of doing something right at the marketing side and the HR side. So that's where I would want to say.
Rajiv Bhatia, thank you so much for taking out your time, for sharing your views. It's lovely to know that, there are absolutely no regrets, and, you're absolutely fine, enjoying yourself, and you wouldn't trade it for anything else. Once again, Rajiv, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure is all mine, Joby. And when I'm in Delhi next, let's get to meet up and have some coffee and all.
Sure, 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 Rajiv.